Oh, one sold? How much? 90,000. 90,000. $90,000? You're lying. There's no way. Only 3 exist? There's no one on this phone. But I had to kind of like properly dramatize what just happened. First of all, for context, you guys remember this?
Flashback.
These boxes are so hard to get at this point that I'm getting these off of Amazon, and they've been selling for like 140 bucks on Amazon. That's because they don't sell anywhere else. I mean, you can try to go on eBay, but even around eBay, you're looking at a value of about 130 bucks, 120-ish for a box if you get lucky. It doesn't really bug me that much. Rare cocoons. Oh wait. Oh! Bro! Bro! Are you kidding me? Dog! That right there! Right there! In the first pack! I'm sorry if I just blew out your eardrums. Dog! End of the series!
End of flashback.
And then you guys might remember this video right here I'm gonna have on the screen where I talked about how Son Goku The Awakened Power, Secret Rare, Dragon Ball Super card game card sold for $5,000. Actually, I think at the time, the card had just sold for like $2,000 like a couple times as a PSA 10 grade. And then it was going to the direction where it was going to be a $5,000 and $10,000 and so on. We're to the point where one of these just recently sold for $90,000. A card that came out in 2018. $90,000. Think about that for a second. Now, before a lot of you guys start digging up your binders and
I have that card, Rhyme. This is 90 grand.
No. See, this is kind of what happened with the Pokemon craze. You know, a couple of cards sold for a lot of money. People realized the value in low population cards, which I'll explain in a couple seconds. And they started digging up their cards, only to find cards like this and saying, yeah, I have this card back here. I told you I had this. Yeah, if it looks like this, it's not worth 90 grand. Now, when it comes down to it, you have to grade your cards. It's actually funny. You can grade anything nowadays. I mean, even games. This is Zone of Enders 2, an original print from the PS2 era. It graded at 80 plus, and I think like 85 plus 90 is kind of like what you want the most, but it's still a graded copy. I don't really care for graded games. Only reason why I bought this is because I wanted a sealed copy of Zone of Enders 2 for my collection, and this is literally all that I saw on sale at the time. Now, because something is graded and it's a decent grade, it always gives an excuse to like jack up the price, and the reason why is because you can always see how many of these, I guess in this case, these games exist. Before we get into it, let me kind of explain grading cards and why it's important to kind of like decide the value of a card because of basically a number that's decided by some random person. Let me explain it real fast. So here we have Lugia. This is the most desired Lugia that exists in the Pokemon community. This is like the grail to have. Well, this is actually an unlimited version, but even an unlimited version is still pretty much desired. You look at this card and you just see how, you know, last year, one of these for PSA 10 sold for $129,000, the first edition version. Also recently, a BGS 10 sold for $144,000. And I know what you're thinking, like, wait, that sold for that much? I have this in my closet somewhere, in my binder, yada, yada, yada. You do, but you don't. You see, if I put this Lugia up to the light, you see all that scratches right there. You also see how it's off-center, it's thinner on this side and thicker on that side. There's also some bends on there. The corners and edges are worn off. This is probably like a PSA 4 or a BGS 4 was to get graded. This is a perfect 10. That's the main difference. If you look this up, how many of these exist graded, it's probably going to be somewhere in the thousands total. So, I mean, you might get that person that, you know, will just want to get this card in their collection, whether it be graded or not, which is perfectly fine. I always say collect the card, not the grade. But the thing is, as far as the highest potential value of a card, you want the perfect grade. Again, 43 of these exist in the world. And not only did I pull this and grade it myself when I sent it to PSA, but I said I got lucky enough to pull a perfect condition one. And I know the first question is going to come to mind is like, well, can people just get more boxes and get lucky enough and pull the cards? Yes and no. Yes, you could find those boxes and they're getting more and more expensive nowadays. But the thing is, this Charizard, which is like the Charizard that everybody grew up with, it's not shadowless, it's not first edition, just like a basic holographic Charizard from base set, was packed fresh. I pulled this myself, and it was a PSA 8. To kind of give you an example, as I have a bunch of dust on here. This is a PSA 8. You see how you can get lucky sometimes and get like the perfect card? The reason why this is an 8 is you can see the corners are kind of like, you know, not a fresh cut. It's also off center and it might have some scratches. The thing that made Lugia so desired when this set was printed, there were horrible scratches along the hollow usually. They were always off center. The corners were all beat. But every now and then you get lucky enough to pull not only one of these, but one of these. 43 of these exist as a PSA 10 and only 4 Only 4 of these as PSA 10 exist. I'm not even kidding. You can look up the certain number yourself. This is one of 4. If you watch this in the future and then there's more, that means someone got lucky and they graded another one. But at the time you're recording this, there were only 4 of these in existence. And again, same thing with the Lugia. Typhlosion was in such bad shape usually that it was just so hard to grade. On top of that, it was a very, very playable card. And like a lot of people wanted it. So again, I got lucky enough to not only pull both of these, but I pulled them in perfect condition. PSA 10 is not what sold for the Son Goku Awakened Power. This is the card. I own one as a PSA 10. If you guys remember, this is the one I pulled in the beginning of this video that I showed you, a little clip. I believe there's like 300, maybe 400 of these PSA 10s in the world. And the reason why there's that many, which by the way, it's still a pretty low number considering the fact that there's millions of collectors out there. But the thing about the Dragon Ball Super card games, the quality was so good. This is printed in 2018, and the quality was just immaculate. Usually, on average, if you open the Dragon Ball Super card set, unless it's super off-center, it's a 10. There was almost no issues with surface sometimes. I mean, every now and then you might get unlucky and get a card that has like a giant print line and stuff like that. But in general, these are in great shape. So if you pull them and send a PSA, there's a good chance it came back as a 10, as it did with me. You know, not only do I have this, but also have the second Holy Grail that came out a year after that, the Apex of Power, actually 2 years after that, the Apex of Power featuring both Goku and Vegeta, and this is basically the same card, same effect where you attack, you win. It was the second Holy Grail. It was a bit easier to pull than this one was, because this was like 1 in 12 boxes. It was wild. It was 1 in 12 boxes with a very, very low print set. So, and also it was very, very playable. So the fact that, you know, even the amount of PSA 10s that exist in the world, that's still kind of wild to me, because like, not many of these are printed in general. And this is the second one. Now, like I said, this is not what sold for 90 grand. My card, this one right here, is probably worth like, I don't know what the recent sales were. I know a couple weeks ago I checked. The big difference here is the competitor, BGS. So, you notice how this says Gem Mint? And it says Gem Mint, but it's a 9.5. Essentially, I don't know how they actually do this, because at the end of the day, it's kind of weird to me that one person or 2 people, or however the grading process is decided, one person essentially decides what a grade actually is. But technically, a BGS 9.5 is essentially equal to a Gem Mint 10 and PSA 10. I'm sure if I send this card over to PSA, it might come back as a 10, because technically, you know, you round it up and stuff like that. So essentially what we had sold the other day for 90 grand was a Black Label Son Goku Awakened Power. That means the card was in such immaculate condition that all 4 of these subgrades were 10s. 10 for surface, 10 for corners, 10 for centering, and 10 for edges. On average, if you were to basically get these cards graded, there's a good chance that most of these will come back as 9.5s. If I were to get these 2 sent over to BGS, as well as my Son Goku Awakened Power, I can cross my fingers and hope that they come back as, you know, 10s. And by the way, BGS version of a 10 will be a, let's say, 10, 10, 10, and like a 9.5. But if I, for some reason, get lucky enough where all subgrades are 10, where the condition is just that good, then the amount of those cards that exist is so low. And just to compare like how many of these exist, so this many PSA 10s exist, as I mentioned, right? If you look over here, this is how many BGS 10s exist. That many. It's still a very, very low number. But this card that sold, 3 exist. 1 of 3 in the world. You see kind of like where the value comes from? Because that card graded in such flawless condition, somebody with the endless wallet was like, 90 grand, I'm down. Let's do it right now. Let's make the deal happen. You know, I confirmed it was a real sale. I talked to PWCC through Instagram, and they confirmed that this is a deal that they helped broker. Yeah, that's honestly what it comes down to. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a billionaire or a millionaire that has like an endless wallet and you're just trying to get stuff to, I don't know, that makes you happy, whether it be buying houses and cars, some people like collectibles, you know, nostalgia sells at the end of the day. If someone's like, I got 90 grand and I got what I want, do you accept my deal? You'll see trades like this happen all the time. Is this card worth 90 grand? Honestly, I don't know. But to that person that bought it, it was. It absolutely was. And I know that person that bought it, as well as the other 2 that own it, again, 3 people own this, they're not going to get rid of it. So you're going to get to the point where eventually someone with an endless wallet is going to pop up and be like, I'll give you 150 grand for it, 200 grand for it, 300 grand for it. And they're going to keep saying no until they hit that number. You know, people have asked me many times, would I ever sell my Lugia and my Typhlosion? And the answer is no. I don't want to. It's weird. Like I know it's gonna be kind of crazy because I've gotten some ridiculous offers for these cards. I'm talking about 6-figure offers, and I've said no to all of them. I just don't want to, because I know if I get rid of this, I'm never gonna own it again. If I get rid of this, I'm definitely never gonna get this one again. This is 1 of 4 in the world. Knowing that I'm 1 of 4 people that owns this, to me, is just so dope. And again, there's so much nostalgia that I get out of, you know, Gen 2 cards. I grew up with this. Pokemon Silver was a big part of my life. Lugia and Typhlosion are amongst my favorite Pokemon from that generation. Like, I know if I get rid of these, well, it'd be cool to get all that money. It also means that I'll never get them again. So it's like, what's really the point? That makes sense. I know it's kind of wild. It's like, Ryan, you wouldn't sell this for $1 million? I don't think I would. It's kind of crazy. I don't think I would. I mean, you guys saw Logan Paul. He walked out of that fight the other day, and he was wearing his Charizard around his neck. That's one of 3. Only 3 of those exist in the world. For comparison, I think 122 PSA 10 first edition Challenge Charizards exist. For BGS, there are 3, and there's no Black Label. There's not a single Black Label. I feel like if we ever get to the point where a Black Label Charizard first edition Challenge exists, it's easily like a $2 to $3 million card, if not more. And that's if you get the person to sell it. If that person gets lucky enough to get that card, I feel like that one person will never sell it. But if they do sell it, it probably is gonna be looking like a $2, $3, $5 million plus sale. Like, it'll be ridiculous. So yeah, I kind of want to explain that, you know. It's always funny to me whenever I talk about cards and collectibles, because the average person never gets it. They're just always like, you guys are crazy paying that much for cardboard. And I mean, I never technically paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for these cards. I pulled this from a $60 pack. I just happened to get lucky. I pulled this from a $90 pack. I happened to get lucky. This is probably the most expensive card I've ever bought raw. I think I paid like, I want to say $1,500 for it a couple years ago, and it was in such perfect condition I couldn't say no. And I was lucky enough that I was right. This was in perfect condition. And now this card today is just absolutely priceless with the amount of value behind it. Like, it's a nostalgic factor. You know, I always say the things that you grew up with, the things that brought a lot of joy to you, you should never abandon. And like, the thing that we're always taught to when we're younger is like, as you get older, you're gonna have to stop worrying about this childish stuff. You're gonna have to stop watching anime or playing games. And I always say, fuck all that, man. If there's something that makes you happy, or there's something that brings you joy, if there's something that reminds you of like the simple times, never let it go. Never let it go. And that, to me, is what collecting cards is. Like, to me, this is exactly what these cards represent. They represent a piece of me, my childhood, my life. And that's why, like, I love this stuff so much. And I know if I had billions of dollars as well, I'll probably be buying these left and right. So I understand why people pay for these cards, why they've, you know, put out hundreds of thousands of dollars of cards. I mean, I talked to the guy last year who bought the Lugia for $129,000. Big shout to Poke Wizard, you know? He came across a lot of money, and he wanted to kind of collect those cards that made him happy, and he saw, even though it was a very, very expensive purchase, he was like, this is worth it. And I asked him, I was like, do you regret it? He was like, absolutely not. He would do it 100 times over and over again. So yeah, so that kind of explains it. So let me know your thoughts down below about, you know, the crazy modern day card that sold for 90 grand and what you guys think about that. You know, over time, I know the value is only going to go up. You know, like I said, if 3 exist, I don't see any more Black Labels being graded because the set itself is so hard to get. It's almost impossible to find these nowadays. You might have maybe a perfect condition one sitting in your binder back somewhere, which I always recommend. If you have these rare cards that you see sell for crazy prices, do get them graded. Send them off to BGS and PSA, and if you get lucky and you get a 10, congrats. But I don't see more being added to the population over time. So that 90 grand that was spent on this Goku a couple weeks ago is going to be worth 200 grand next year, and then 300 grand next year, and then $1 million 10 years from now. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, even though there was a Pokemon crash this past year, the values that the cards are at right now are still like 400% more than they were a year ago, you know? I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right now. If you have any question in regards to collectibles, let me know down below. You can also tweet me at Rhymestyle. One thing I always say, because I know I'm gonna get this question all over the comments, is like, Rhyme, I have this Blue Eyes that you showed off. Questions, is it first edition? Is it good condition? Does it look like this? If it doesn't look like this, get it graded. Trust me, get the card graded, send it off to PSA or Beckett, whatever grading service you want. Wait a couple months, get it back. If you have a 10, if you even have 9s, or you know, like somewhere high grades like 8s plus, you're looking at a pretty valuable card at the end of the day. And if you don't want it, someone's gonna want it. So you can definitely, like, you know, try to sell it to other people and stuff like that. But I always recommend getting your cards graded, just because, again, it becomes safe, it gets encapsulated. Whether you decide to keep it or sell it, it's up to you. But remember, here's the key thing. If it looks like this, it's not worth anything. You know, I always see people like, that's it? I have like 7 of those in my closet. No, you don't. You might have 7 of these, but you don't have, you know, the Gem Intense, potential amazing quality. And every little thing you have on a card is gonna dock the card as far as overall grade. If it has like screwed up edges, if it has that one scratch, even a single scratch across the hollow will kill a grade. So kind of keep that in mind. Like that matters the most. So if you have cards that look absolutely flawless, I always recommend getting them graded. With that said, I'm ending the video right here. This is interesting. I can't wait to see what happens to the Dragon Ball Super card game. Mostly because if you guys remember, 3 years ago when I made my first video opening these Dragon Ball Super cards, I was asking myself, will there be a point where a collector's market actually forms around Dragon Ball Super? And we can definitely confirm. We confirmed it years ago. But looking at it, it's kind of crazy to see how much Dragon Ball Super has grown. Because again, these cards right here, like 2002, 2000, you know, the mid 2000s. They sell for a lot of money at high grades, but I have not really seen a case where a modern day card that came out in 2018 sold for that much. I mean, not counting sports cards, because sports cards are a whole different behemoth. But it's kind of crazy to see a card, a Dragon Ball card at that came out in 2018 sold for that much. And I'm excited to see what else happens to the overall collector's market with this game, because I love this. You know, the Dragon Ball Super card game has some of the best art I've seen, and I think it's absolutely a fun time to be a collector. You know, with Dragon Ball cards, I never really got into them when I was younger, mostly just because I was more into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. And they had those Dragon Ball cards when I was younger, but there was nothing that really stood out about them that made me go like, damn, I want that card. But Dragon Ball Super card game, when it came out in 2017, 2017, I think, I immediately fell in love with it. And then when they started introducing arts like this, in the secret rares and the crazy pull rates, I was like, yep, I'm sold. I want all these for my collection. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna end it right here. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I guess stay tuned for more Dragon Ball Super card game content. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the comment section below. Peace.